All right, everybody, welcome to GitLab CI in a monorepo context. My name is Sam Morris. I'm a senior customer success manager, and I want to show you how you can leverage our verify as well as secure features when you're using a monorepo. So essentially what we're considering to be a monorepo is a GitLab project that has multiple different applications inside of it. So in this case, each application is housed in a separate folder here, but they could have been in separate GitLab projects. Some corporations decide to use a monorepo structure and put multiple different deployable applications into a single project location. So let's kind of go through how this works. Essentially, I have two different applications here. One is a Java application, one is a Python application. That's named Java and Python. Here is my GitLab CI YAML. This is quite simple, as you can see. So essentially, it has only 3 different stages in a top-level job. So this is indicating that there's a job running at this top-level .gitlab CI YAML file. It's only, printing to the screen, hello world. It's not doing anything too fancy. However, you'll notice that I also have an include and local keyword for 2 other files. One is a GitLab CI YAML file in the Java directory, and one is a py.gitlab CI YAML file in the Python directory. These could be named anything. All this line is doing is including the files in these 2 locations. So I named them GitLab CI YAML as well, and just prefixed with like a J or a PY to indicate the language of the application that I'm including. Unfortunately, we do not have a conditional includes for rules based on changes. Ideally, we would only include these separate files in some situations, such as if there was a change to a file in the Java directory or a change to a file in the Python directory, then we would choose to include the file in that directory. However, unfortunately, our rules include, as of March 2023, does not support that specific keyword, the changes keyword in the rules if clause. Local also means that this is local to this project. It's not pulling from an external project, because otherwise we wouldn't have a monorepo. All right, so let's back up and see what the contents of those files are that we're including. So in this case, I don't actually have an application in this folder. For all intents and purposes, I just have like a dummy file right here, .txt file that we can change. And essentially, if I change the contents of this file, it should trigger the Java GitLab CI YAML specific jobs, versus if I changed the Python one, it would trigger those jobs. Let's see the logic for this. So this has the same stages because it should map that top level stages and not have additional ones. I also define a class here, and a class in GitLab is denoted by this dot keyword, so the .java common. It could be named anything, but I just called it Java common because these are rules that are going to be common to all of the jobs specific to the Java application. And in this class, I define the rules changes here. So essentially, again, you cannot do a conditional includes. So I couldn't conditionally include the contents of this file in the case of an update to a file in the Java directory. However, I can create these common rules in which if there is a change in the Java directory to any file indicated by this wildcard asterisk right here, I include these common rules in the jobs, right? So I have Java build job. This has to extend that class, Java-common. So it's essentially going to inherit these rules. And I'm doing that because I want to be able to kind of group together any rules. You could also do variables or whatnot in this class. I wanted to group it together just to promote code reuse. So I only have to write extends, colon, and then the class name, instead of rewriting these same rule changes for every job, because that's going to get a bit tedious, especially because these GitLab CI YAML files can get quite complex quickly. especially given a monorepo context when, you might have even more complicated, well, far more complicated build, tests, and deploy processes. So it's best to just kind of keep this clean and neat. So I use my class, and then I say that it extends Java common, so it will inherit this rules changes. I do that for all of the Java specific jobs, Java build job, Java test job, etc. All right. As you can imagine, it's the same deal for the Python. As you can see, Python common. This is just watching for any changes to any files in the Python directory. Again, extending that common rule set. So you'll see that pattern there of, you want to improve this code reuse. However, perhaps you create jobs and you want them to extend some other class. This is just one way to implement the same logic, but my top priority here was I want to run certain jobs if I change a file in the directory, right? So that if I'm making a change to my Python app and I couldn't care less about my Java app, then I will only, build and test the Python application, right? So it's to save some time in your pipeline runs, because otherwise the jobs would be triggered in parallel and you would have to wait even longer for your entire pipeline to complete, which is not ideal. Great. So now that we've seen this, we can kind of see it in action here. So I'm going to make a quick change. I'll go ahead and do it to my Java file. So this is java-example. There's no contents in it. So let's open in the web IDE here. Just make a quick change to the file. All right. Making a change. So now I'm indicated I can commit. So I'm going to do Java change, commit and push, and I'm going to commit to a new branch. So I'm making a merge request as best practice. Let's call it Java change, right? I'll click on create merge request. My pipeline's already been kicked off. I'm going to click create merge request. So as you can see that the Java build job is indeed running. And then the Java test job as well will be running next. So essentially what happened here was, during my merge request, I only have this job, the Java job, and I only have the Java test job running as well. So I'm not running my Python one. I will say, though, that given you are using the rules changes and you're watching for changes, there are some caveats to keep in mind here. So essentially, if I just trigger my CI/CD pipeline, so we're going to shift gears. If I simply clicked run pipeline and I'm running on the main branch, you will notice that all the jobs are running, right? So this is because of that rules changes keyword. And the logic is that essentially this isn't seen as like a push. There's no push indicator. So the rules changes is only working on merge request pipelines. Otherwise, rules changes will always be identified as true. So if you're just directly running your pipeline, which can happen if you're doing a scheduled pipeline run, for example, a manual pipeline run where I just go in and click it, it's going to run all of the jobs, okay? And that's not the worst thing in the world. It just means that, the pipeline might take longer and that logic of the rules changes doesn't take place. That only occurs in branch pipelines and in merge request pipelines. So just something to keep in mind. That you won't see the same logic if you just go and click run pipeline from your CI/CD tab. However, in the merge request, you will see that this ran just the Java specific jobs right here. And to secure this, you can leverage all kinds of features. You can leverage your scan result policies. which run due to vulnerabilities being found in your merge requests and requiring approvals from your security teams. You can also run scan execution policies to run security scans agnostic to the GitLab CI YAML file, which might be great in a monorepo context when this can get a little bit confusing. And you can also apply a compliance pipeline as well. So if I go ahead and click into my compliance framework, and I just select one, for example compliance framework, I believe this has secret detection, container scanning, and one other scanner. I click Save Changes, and I go ahead and trigger my pipeline. Again, this is going to run all of the jobs because that rules if changes is going to evaluate to true. But you'll see it automatically adds the scans to my test stage here. And that's that. And you don't have to manage this within the GitLab CI YAML. As you remember, the GitLab CI YAML file from before doesn't have any test jobs spelled out at all, and it doesn't include any scanner templates. You certainly can include, if you want to include SAS or secret detection or anything in this file, you certainly can. But you can still also leverage that control of the compliance pipeline as well. Another thing to note is if you don't want to set up your own GitLab CI YAML files here, you can always set up your Python and Java or any other language specific jobs, and then set the rules to only changes, etc. in this top level GitLab CI YAML file. But this is a best practice if you want to keep things kind of modular and clean. And that's that. Hope this was helpful in understanding how to use GitLab CI and secure in a monorepo context.